before starting to discuss about this with the speakers that we have here, this panelist, this it's a very different situation. El Salvador, Central America, with a diversified matrix. And the reality of Chile is quite different with this geothermal energy that has been developed for years. And this is going to be, well, sharing about the different experiences. So in Latin America, in geothermal energy, I think this is a good question. Who knows who has the most developed sector? Mexico is the one that has the most capacity installed. And then the US, of course, but in Latin America, El Salvador, Costa Rica, Nicaragua also, we have hundreds of megavatios that are actually in use. Guatemala has a little bit less, but we are pushing this forward in this moment. And then we have South America with the Chile with the 83 megavatios that are installed. And this is going to in the plan of getting to a 200 number. But then we have the Caribbean islands that has a great potential also because of the geographic situation. But each country it has played a strategic role. Sometimes it's 5 or 10% of the total matrix, but it's a clean energy and it's also domestic one. So that is a really positive side. And where we have more development perspective, because maybe the permits or the topics that you have to cover before, and the funding, of course, that is a serious problem, and the risk assessment, of course, um, and also let's see how we threaten this. And also the idea it is to ease the paperwork, the permit granting and how we can actually get the funds to advance. And this is the perspective of the region for you to have an idea. And now I'm going to give the mic to the panelists so they can present why they are here and what is your expertise and what can you share. And in your country, how do you see this, the role of the geothermal energy and provide a perspective and a perspective of geothermal energy for the people that is not familiarized with this. Hi, good morning, Jamile Dequan from Geo Salvador. In our country, geothermal energy, the market participation, it is 20%, with a plan of development of new geothermal plans with the growth to 25% in the next 5 years, medium term. For us, and same as the other countries, we have, well, this is very important, the development of this, because it's a clean energy. And there are some plans, and definitely the topic of funding, it's quite complex. And we just had drilling wells and the development of the next stage of the Chinamec plant. This is with 50 megas in San Vicente. It's going to develop 50 megas more. And we are talking about 90 new megas because we also going to empower other plants as Berlin. So the growth is really interesting, and it's really interesting for the country to see what it is, how we foster this kind of energy development. Good morning, everyone. I am Daphne Pinorifo. I am Seremi in the Antofagasta region, where we have the only plant of geothermal energy in country, as David said. with our 33 megawatts of the installed capacity. And Antofagasta, it is the energy capital of the country, almost the 10 gigas of installed capacity, and almost 60% it's renewable energy. There has been an important deployment in the last time and the diversification of this energy matrix. And this is going, well, we are in under maintenance, but it's going to um, start go back again to functioning process. We have this geothermal plant that was the first one in Latin America, and we had important learning at regulatory and law aspects, and it was the baseline for other regulations. We have solar energy and aeolic energy also. It's present. About the hydraulic pumping as well. And also, besides being the energy capital of the country, we have 86% of injection of energy to the interconnected system, and we have 60% of the installed capacity of storage. We have had a great revolution in this last time, and we have provided the incentives of this regulation for this to be developed and also added to the investment in the transmission of energy. And this is connected. And in Antofagasta, of course, with this, it's very important to transfer this energy to the other regions, and with this has incentivized projects of storage. And this, of course, is going to have other challenges. For example, the deployment of renewables, of course, the complementary systems that had to be updated, rotatory systems, and also other condensers that are helping us to decarbonize the matrix. We are closing the thermoelectric companies based on coal, and we need a lot of complementary services that can be needed because of this inertia and provide stability to the system is really important. So it's really important to manage this and these attributes to the system. It seems that we have an important potential, that it is an interesting prospect. We are talking about 3,800 megas approximately, that it's about 10% of our global matrix. We have 36,000 matrix capacity installed, and this is from Arica to the south, and we have this very interesting option to continue exploring geothermal energy. And at 0.02. And what are the plans in the middle term? Do you have any other additional ideas? And what are the important things coming? I don't know if you can tell us about what it's coming. It seems that just give me a second. I am a little, I have a cold. Thank you. You're very nice.
Hay un desafío importante porque efectivamente la competitividad de otras tecnologías es lo que un
The
poco se ha ido
competitiveness of
desarrollando
other
también
technologies is
en
what
base a los costos
it has
iniciales
been
de inversión.
developed based in the
Nosotros además
initial
tenemos
costs.
la
And
radiación
we
más
also
importante, más
have
alta
the
a nivel
most
mundial.
important and the highest
Nosotros somos la región
solar radiation at the
mayor
world level,
porcentaje
and
de
we
solar
are the
nacional.
region with the
Tenemos también
greatest percentage
una
of
gran demanda
state
energía por
land,
proyectos
and
renovables en
this
nuestra
demands a
industria
lot of
minera. Somos una región también
energy,
minera también
and
con
we are the
mucho
capital of the
desarrollo
mining
hacia
industry, and the
la
development of the
región se ha dado
energy
también un
in
poco
the
en
region
base a
has
la
been
demanda
given
que
because
ha
a little bit
surgido
because of
en
the
el mundo
demand that we
y
have from the mining
en donde
industry,
no
and
sé si sea posible
immediately now, I don't know if it is possible that the geothermal energy will compete with other technologies because the investment of Cerro Pavillon, it was about $320 million portion. It 1 mega is $1 million. And it's not a small difference in regarding the installed capacity, and also the price of technology is going down. And we also have a clear regulation about through the night and use through the night, the excess of energy. So this is complex if the state is not involved. Cerro Pabellón has a percentage of participation through ENAP, the National Company of Oil, 16%. And um, and it was created with a loan from the IDB, and that it is the subside, so it's a subsidy for geothermal risk, that it's a big amount of millions of dollars. And however, this collaborated to decrease the risk related to this initial um, inspections and risk, and also the investment. So it's really relevant. The role of the state, even the participation is small, to provide the speed to this and to make these projects float up with the potential that we have. So we, of course, need more public support. We have I think in El Salvador is a little bit different. Can you tell us a little bit what are the development plans that you have and the challenges that you have in El Salvador? We really have this big support from the government, and they are our guarantee for the IDB. And this is a a society of variable value, and we have created the mechanisms to guarantee that loan. For us, it's really important the geothermal energy, and we hope to have an increase in this matrix participation. We have approved the geothermal energy law that is going to leave the rules very clear in terms of foreign investment and with a lot of fiscal benefits. And we are going to allow, like with this, the foreign investment in this kind of projects. And we calculated the additional capacity is 600 megas more, like Geo, that is the only producer of geothermal energy. We are producing 117 megas, and we are growing. So for us, it's a little bit up the other way around, but to leave those clear rules and to allow other kinds of investment and to establish those fiscal mechanisms are going to bringing more generation and investment, and that the funding people also has a clarity of the market. So very clear, very good. Looking at Chile, maybe we need a more supportive public policy. That would be also, well, the challenge of funding also is very important, but there is a regulatory change that we have to have into account as well, or is only funding the
Sí, hay unos estudios
problem?
que efectivamente
Yes,
indican
there are
que se
some
debiese
studies that
ir
actually show
cambiando
that
algunas
we
regulaciones,
should have
pero
some
digamos,
regulatory updates
pensando
and
en un clima
changes.
de baja entalpía,
And
en el año
thinking
2024
about, we
bajo
modified the law
este tipo de proyectos
precisely
se
to
modificó tanto que precisamente para las bombas de calor
allow this kind of
simplemente
project. And actually, they
conceder
included the
estudios
heat
que de
pumps
ahí
and they do not need concession. So
se
there is an
debiese
important
poder
potential
explotar
there that we should
con respecto
explore.
a la regulación
But
se
regarding the
establece las
regulation, we
condiciones
are the
para poder
countries that have oldest regulations about this. And also, that made possible that we could develop this pioneer project in Latin America. But I think that the investment of the state is really relevant. And we also have worked with we have worked with other kinds of geothermal energy. And I think that there is a great opportunity. They use in Salvador, I understand that they have perspectives of developing this part, and the law
Sí,
has
pues
done it,
en
but
El
we need
Salvador
more projects,
solo
right?
hemos tenido proyectos pilotos que los ha desarrollado la GEO con base en tal pie. La
We have
regulación
had
de
some
los
projects that
particulares
have been developed by the
es
Hill
un
with low
mecanismo de
enthalpy
riego
and up to 5
que
megas
se llama
does
una
not
concesión
require
de
any type
uso
of
directo de
concession
las
really
estampillas.
of
Se han
direct use
identificado
and
zonas
LTP. We have identified some
pilotos para
areas and
desarrollar.
projects
Nosotros en particular hicimos
that
lo
have
que es
been developed,
tostados
and
de la café,
we done the toast
homogenización
of coffee, the
de productos
homogenization
y
of some
el de velas. También hemos
um,
tenido otros de
uh,
procesamiento de
yogurts and
vidrio,
some dairy
bebidas
products and
empaquetadas
some candles.
y sobre
We have
todo
been practicing those on the area. Another
frutas.
perspectives as the
De hecho, el
sort of
proyecto que tenemos del crédito
the
transfronterizo,
project
como
of
decía
the credit of the
recién, lo
Worldwide Bank
participamos en
and the
desarrollarlos
communities as well
desde años
uh,
antes, de años
of
de
some
primeras
years.
inversiones.
And the prospections,
Tenemos
after all,
bastante
and
esa continuidad. Entonces,
we
sí,
have a
hicimos
community
una
development.
para ver
We work
que
with them
logre identificar
to
proyectos
see how we identify the
crédito y otros
projects of
políticos.
the
Entonces,
low
eso nos permite
enthalpy.
también
So
llevar en
this is going
paralelo
to allow to
ese tipo
deal
de
with
requerimientos de la
in
comunidad
parallel
y
this type of
desarrollar
requests of the
proyectos para
communities
los mismos.
and the development of projects for such. Yes, it's something that has to go well over the social conflict. I understand that this is a challenge, right? The local population can affect and can deal
Sí,
with this type of
eso iba de la
projects.
mano.
I mean, this
Entonces,
is, yes,
explicaba,
this
nosotros
goes hand to
empezamos,
hand. As I said,
por ejemplo, en el caso de
we start, for
Chinamega,
example, in the
empezamos
case of
casi
Chinamega, we
8
have
años de empezar trabajando con la comunidad,
8 years being
fuimos uno de
working
los
with the
primeros
community as we started
brasileños en
being
exploración de
the and
recursos
working with the first
y las
exploration of
primeras exploraciones
resources
que se hicieron en la
and the
zona,
first drillings that we did on the
precisamente la
area.
comunidad se
So
preparaba
since
directo
then, we've been
para
working with the
comercializar los
community.
insumos
We put
de
some
contratación que también
workshops
requerimos
ready for some
y la
hiring that
idea
we
es
also
eso, o
need.
sea,
And the idea
generar
is
economías a escala,
to generate some
que la
scale
misma
economics
población se
and
siente
that the
incluida en el
same
proyecto
population
y evitar
feels
un
in the
poco
project
ese tipo de conflictos, ¿verdad?
and
Entonces
try
creo
to
que
avoid this
hemos
type of
tenido
project.
bastante trabajo en conjunto
We've
con la
been having a
comunidad
lot of work all
y
together with
parte
the
del
community,
uso
and
directo
part of
es
the direct use and the entropies is directed for them. Is there any experience in Chile that you can share? And also, we're going to hand the microphone to the audience to see if they have questions. So,
sí,
um,
precisamente el
well,
tema territorial relacionado con las
the
comunidades
land issue
indígenas a mí es
concerning
un desafío en nuestro país.
the
Se
communities, the indigenous
registra en
communities, is a
algunas
challenge
áreas una de las
related
mayores
in some of the two areas
identificaciones
of
urbanísticas.
indigenous development that we have
Está
in our
Atacamara
region.
Grande en el
We
sector de
have
San Pedro
Atacamara Grande
Loa,
in the
y
section
ese
of San
plan
Pedro, and also we have Alto Loa.
está
And
precisamente
this
en
plant
Alto
is
Loa, cerca
precisely in
de
Alto
la
Loa,
comuna de
near
Rondillahue,
the district of
donde
Rondillahue, sorry,
efectivamente hay presencia
where
importante
there's a
del
presence,
desarrollo
important presence of
indígena.
development
Entonces,
that
hay que
is
entender también cómo
indigenous.
se
So
ha
we
hecho
need to understand,
esfuerzos
given the fact that we have
en esta semana
emphasized
de la energía,
this
la
week of energy,
transición
that the
energética
transition,
debe ser justa.
energetic
Y
transition
hay
needs
muchas
to be fair.
comunidades en
And
esta
there are many
región de desarrollo
communities in
indígena
these
que son
indigenous
que no
areas
tienen
that
energía,
precisely they
agua potable,
don't have energy. Some of them they don't
sienten
have
por
drinkable
supuesto que
water.
demanda todo ese
Our
tamaño
president
recursos
everything that's possible
básicos,
to be able to solve
hay
these
una
basic
deuda del Estado
needs.
de
This is a
recursos
debt of the state
y nosotros hemos
that the state has
trabajado
had for
de
many
una
years, and
manera,
we've been
hemos
working
puesto mucho
in a
énfasis
very powerful manner.
precisamente en cómo
Really,
el
we put a lot
desarrollo
of emphasis,
energético de
so
nuestra
all the
región
energetic
también
development of
pueda
a
verse
region
reflejado
can
en
also be
mejor calidad de
reflected
vida
in
para
a
la
better
población.
life quality for the
En Ollagüe en
communities.
particular se cuenta
In
precisamente
Yahweh
con una
especially,
planta
we have a
que
plant
fue
that
inversión
is
de Minera Labra
was in
del
fact
municipio
an investment of Minera
de
Labra.
Enel.
It's also on site
Y esta
there
planta es una
of
planta
Enel,
híbrida
and this plant
solar,
is hybrid.
tiene
Is
motores también, tenía
solar energy, has engines,
también era una planta
has
eólica, pero es una
it
empresa
is
de,
a
se
neolitic
instaló
plant,
la
but
aerogeneradora
that
en invierno.
started in the generation, and
Pero
now it's like not
la idea
correctly
justamente de generar
said.
esta planta híbrida era
But the
precisamente
idea
para
to
satisfacer
generate
las
this hybrid
necesidades
plant
de
was
esta zona.
precisely to supply
Y
the
hemos
needs of
trabajado en
this
conjunto
district.
para ir
We've been
generando
working all
pruebas
together
para
to
ver
generate
qué
these
avanza.
improvements
Y
and to be able
efectivamente
to
empezar a
move on as
trabajar
well
con energía,
with
creo que eso es
the energy that we all need to
importante
have. This is a very important
alianza
example of work on
público-privada,
a
que es la
public
supervisión
private
de la planta híbrida que
area
nosotros lideramos
is the supervision that we need as SRME Energy and linked as well in this geothermal area. And we've been trying to move on, but we need to find as well something that needs to be done. It is privately said, and in each case, we need to see how we solve this problem. Projects of the same communities for these communitary and individual. Uh, uh, I mean, the houses they're very far away from each other, and that can be a solution. But the public work, the private work, it's essential to move on and solve these subjects. What we've been doing in special cases is financing, private financing. We've been developing studies, we've been raising projects precisely to raise some public funds. The best example is Quillagua. It is a place that is near Maria Elena, and we have invested almost $20 million in a study in a place to formulate a project with which we raised $2,000 million. Yes, 2,000 million pesos, 2,000 $2 million, 2,000 million pesos to standardize the situation, and the public area can give a good situation, a good performance level, and that can raise capitals to be able to solve things that happen to the community. Any other question? I'm part of the bid of the geothermal bank. I congratulate the panel for this interesting and target that can vary a lot. I mean, what is the generator? Who is the generator of El Salvador? In the case of El Salvador, in fact. Yes. I don't know if you listened to what I said. I'm Christian from the BIT. I work also in geothermal energy, and I love to have these two examples. We've been working in Colombia, Mexico, and as our colleague said, in the island of the Caribbean, developing some plants, financing them, these geothermal activities. But what we do see is that there's a hard electrical competition when we compare this to wind energy. So my question here for the panel is, would it be maybe we are wrong? Uh, those panel receivers, they're not sufficiently well stated, and on the side of El Salvador, we're thinking about crypto, right? To set a cryptocurrency and everything that that entails. And in the case of Chile, I ask myself what happens if we think and we consider data centers. What would happen then? Because then we have two big variables and some resources that can be cold, and that can be one of the most important variables that need the data center. My daughter that is always on the GPT chat. Doesn't matter if you paid 50 more cents to pay for a question if this is generated by clean energy, for example. Maybe at the end I will pay for that, doesn't matter, but I think there's a lot of availability. And I wanted you to expand, please, and detail more that information that that's possible to give a more detailed explanation. Yes, in El Salvador specifically, the GEO has developed a pilot project in cryptocurrencies. I'm not going to reflect utilities or not, but anyways. And also we are exploring the data centers. The data centers is the same. And right now, the geothermal energy as well as the hydro, for example, they have been the basis at a state level. They have been the ones that have been keeping the rate. We are not focused in selling all this to the data center or to crypto. We are not. But we do have the studies and the pilot plant to be able to be be ready to measure the effectiveness as a business. And of course, they don't care about paying a bit more. That's very interesting. The question is great because given the power to pay, we have considered precisely data centers and an industrial development that demands this type of energy. We move the electrons, so we either develop industry, and in Antofagasta, we have a very key for the worldwide transition at a worldwide level, but we have also emphasized to give value to our product through industries that demand energy. And the data center is an option. In the context of the social transition, this is fair concerning the Tocopilla, and that was precisely the idea that was discussed. Finding ways to be in charge of these challenges that have generated a boost, an economic boost, and a development that is very relevant to these districts for more than 10 years now. So what do we do? Given that we're going to close the thermoelectricals, what happens now? How are we going to be able to reorient the economic matrix? How are we going to develop the companies, given the power and the possibilities that we have ahead? But I don't have very clear how competitive would it be to inject energy from the geothermal right now when there's something as important as an essential that if the demand was in the region, it would be a bit more competitive only due to this reason. Thank you so much. More questions? Hi, my name is Chris Pular. I'm a student of the Catholic University, and I have a doubt for you concerning what you were saying, the communities and most of all, well, in general, the population. And I would like to know about the measures that are being taken in terms of distributed energy or self-generation. For example, the houses, the way to contribute to the micro network. I would like to ask about that. Sorry? Yes. Yes, wonderful. Go ahead. Uh, there's a great challenge region. The generation that this is represents a great capacity of the installed capacity, the total power. And we, at least, what we've done is to raise funds from the regional government to be able to install the solar panels. This is called the social service with 2,000 to 400 in solar panels where they're most needed in vulnerable families. But these sectors that are isolated, we've seen different formulas of communitary projects as well as individual. In San Pedro de Atacama, for example, there's a community that has a small indoor section, so it depends on the concepts, how we've been organizing, but there's an exclusive table to develop these basic services for the communities of our region. Microphone, please. There's a problem with the sound. Why the part of the energy has not been authorized and is not similar to the sun energy? Sorry, the quality of sound is not that good. It's quite risky and the investment is very high. So concerning time, they're good. They have a good behavior, but the investment is very, very important. The drilling, the plants, all of that is expensive. Our plant, so I think that's it versus the photovoltaic energy. Like as this it indicates, this has been decreasing the amount, like knowing that they have another type of energy. And it's the matter of taking profit of what we have in the region to be able to generate everything, or if not in El Salvador, where we are legalizing and making more formal these things. And it's also a scale subject, right? The gigawatts, they have a development that is much more faster. But with geothermal energy, it's important and it's something to take into account. and also the drilling. There's not a lot of margin in the technological part beyond the fact that we have a turbine. Yes, my name is Gustavo Sánchez, and I am one of the operators of this type of market in the Latin America. And I would like to ask something important concerning a possible reform that we would do. What about these, the laws they deal with geothermal energy? Can you widen up and can you specify, please, these 5 megawatts that today I see that there's some sun energy, and to see that if that energy can be used for industrial uses? Yes, precisely. The law has been approved the 10th of December, and is going to be active only 10 days later because it deals with this type of section and energy, and that's what the law says. It's going to be enforced 10 days later. But what is not direct generation for a project doesn't need a drilling of wells. What doesn't need a drilling of wells doesn't need a concession. Obviously, of course, we have the steps and the methodology. It's something that is already stated on the law, and part of the records of what we did as jail in some areas, for example, they have to be there. They have to be this record, and it's going to be of public use. That is, for example, talking about any generator under 5 megas is not going to require transition. Good, thank you so much. I'm Sonia Castillo, I'm a geologist, I'm a specialist in geothermal energy, and I have a PhD in sustainability of Mexico, UNAM. I would like to tell you about, ask you about Chile. The geothermal is new, and you have any that have this type of projects flow and LP or the remnant that you have, and the challenges that you have been mentioning, if during the process of exploration, have you obtained any assessment in any aspect, economic, geological, any foreign investment? We're talking about Italy, Ireland, Iceland in this case. It has a lot of development, or everything has been based on Chile and South America concerning the execution of the project, of course. Thank you. Yes, the participants, the shareholders, the most important ones in the plant of Italy, they have like a very wide experience in geothermal energy in this type of ideas. So this has an assessment, and there's some. We've been having some experts in this preliminary. We have this international support. I would like to mention that the plant is at 4,500 meters of height, and it's also quite far away from the substation. So also concerning the electrical system. So it is a huge challenge. When I got to know the plant a couple of years ago, we saw this with a delegation of Trinidad and Tobago. We suffered quite a lot because we experienced many things with them. They wanted to get to know the plant. We reached the 1,800 meters. You have to have your physical health examinations, of course. They do exams. They measure the pressure, the saturation of oxygen, and half of the delegation could not go higher in the mountain. And one of the public officers was there, but could not reach the parameters to arrive where you need to go. And it gives you 30 minutes. And after that, well, the analysis were quite all right, and we could go up. But the previous week, two people had a pre-heart attack, a pre-heart failure, and they almost had a stroke. So these are situations, climate situations and geological, that are complex and difficult, geographically speaking. And being in the plant, you have to be very careful. If something falls down, very, very careful, and everything has to go very slow. The people from Trinidad and Tobago, they were even, he was even about to die. So they're important, relevant areas, because this is highly stated and it's important in terms of energetic consumption. I wanted to just say this. Thank you. We're going to be closing the panel now. Just a last question. Getting out of your project and your country, where do you see Latin America the highest power? And also concerning your colleague, why in Chile do we do this or not? You can leave this final reflection here for the audience if you want to. The geothermal development in the region, really, as it has been mentioned, the water in Mexico is important, of course. We're giving this type of development in Guatemala. In Chile, yes, I was there. I went to Calama. So it has an incredible power. And they say no, because I even needed a third thing. So I went to the geysers. That was very high. So I reached others. And also at the end, what happened? Each country of each economy is going to invest in the energy that it requires and is more feasible and is more expensive for population. Of course, the extensions, we have like a huge problem in the El Salvador that is not even the region of Antofagasta. Imagine that. It's a very small country, and it depends on the line of transmission. I don't even want to imagine those that have to do other things. So each country is going to be developing the needs and the capacity. So as I mentioned, we do have a power that is already explored, and it deals with our capacity, so this can deliver some important things. And as I mentioned here, my colleague said something very important. This is key. Uh, it's part of the countries. As I mentioned, we have the highest radiation. So what to do? I mean, there are some heights and some measurements that are important in the coast. We're thinking about hydraulic pumping. There's a huge power here. Chile can produce 60 times the demand. So in that diversity, we have the richness of what we have and the extensions that are also a challenge. We're working in the first line of transition of Quimando Aguirre, and they are in the region of Marianela, in the region of Antofagasta, and they reach Santiago for 2029. But in the meantime, the storage of the power that we have is precisely that, to use as best as we can the structure of investment. This is an alternative because we're going to be able to inject some solar energetic system. Thank you very much, dear audience, for listening to this interesting panel. Thank you very much and have a good day.